Today we're going to talk about building Lego cities. When you think about building a city, there are a few things you want to consider. Cities have people, cities have buildings. Here I wrote a list. Cities have not just houses, they have apartments, office buildings, factories, stores, police and fire departments, city halls. All of these go into making your city complete. If you start with a class of kids and you're working towards building a city, most likely they will build a house. And I would like to start by discussing a house. The size of your house, the house that will be built, depends on the base plate you give them, the instruction you provide on techniques, and any examples that you show them that will demonstrate certain techniques. So I will go through these as if we are giving them, the students, different scenarios. The first one I'll discuss is what happens if you give the student a 16 by 16 base plate and 2 by 2 or 2 by 4 bricks. And I'll demonstrate that to you. Given 2 by 4 bricks, you're likely going to have something that looks like this. I don't have a lot of 2 by 4 bricks right now because we have a project going on, but this often evolves. I used what I could. And what is interesting about this is that the structure is not the strongest with regard to building a house. So to make this a little bit stronger, or a lot stronger, you could overlap the bricks so that each individual tower of bricks is not going to fall off and fall apart, right? So this is the first sort of lesson you want to learn, or encourage the kids to overlap their bricks, right? And now that's quite a bit stronger. I do a little game with the kids sometimes. I ask them to build a house that can survive a wrecking ball. And depending upon the kids, you might want to prep them so that they're not upset when their house gets wrecked. But then you could even have them roll a basketball towards it to see what will withstand. And a basketball likely would take this down, but wouldn't take this down. Or might, right? But it's a test, and one that's interactive and interesting. So the scale of this house is quite large. If I adjusted it, back up. Inside the house, if I wanted to make this playable, because I've used 2 by 2 bricks on the walls, my footprint on the inside is substantially reduced. So a way to give the kids better playability, and you judge based on the age of the kids you're working with, but a way to do that is to give them bricks that are 1 by 4, 1 by 6, 1 by 8. So we'll do that next. Okay, here I am now with the same size base plate, but I'm going to use 1 by bricks. Now, even this size of brick influences what you do. because it's a 1x16 and you can only use it in that way. Well, there is another way you can use it, and I'll show you after I do this build. But for instance, if I wanted to do this, it would fall off the edge, right? So having this brick means I'm probably going to build a house that occupies either the entire width, at least, of the property, right? Because that's how big my brick is. So my wall has to be that big, unless I'm making maybe a boundary wall for the house. It's possible too. And then let's play with this a little bit, and I'll show you what I get. And then we'll sort of discuss the differences between this and that guy over there. Okay, so here we have the two models that I'm working on. And I'm not going to spend too much more time on these. So you're starting to be able to see how much room is available inside if you use 1x1s versus 1x2s, 2x2s, or 2x anything. And when you make a door, you don't have to actually have a working door. You can just make a doorway like I did here. Here is another doorway, and you hold it at the top with a longer beam. Here is a window. This is an actual window with a glass, plastic. Here is a doorway, and here are two tall windows that I'm making. And you can see where I did a lot of overlapping here, and I braced them all with these tall, long 1x16s. And here also I used the longer 2x's to sort of hold it all secure. Here's a window, and here's a window with a frame. So you can see the differences between those. So having just even 2 extra studs makes a big difference on the available space inside. But there we go. See that? Now that we have looked at building with 2x's and 1x's, I'll show you a completed store. This is a Cupcake House that I created a while ago. Some of you, those of you who are Legoland ambassadors, will remember this. This is a cupcake model that was built at a Master Model Builder session, and I still have it. And I have added it to my house that I created. Store, actually, a Cupcake House. Now, this Cupcake House, I do not believe, has an accessible interior. Let me look and see. Because maybe at the time I wasn't building an accessible interior. So let's look at what we've got here. We've got some textured bricks so that you can get more detail. We've got a little bit of detail with a recessed entrance, right? Flat tile to be a step up, and then into the store. I do not believe that, yeah, there's nothing accessible about it. Inside you can see I made a table and some other things, but really that's kind of what we got. And I did have a working door that was created by the Lego company, and this is a window, a flat glass pane, and these are little windows, again created by the Lego company. It's really cute. And then I added a deck up on top. Now you might say, does that lady fit inside that door? And I suspect she might have to go in sideways if she wanted to. That is supposed to be me, by the way. But anyway, so this is what you're looking at. Now I want to address the discussion, the issue of accessibility of your model once you have created it. So we were in a little bit of a discussion we have a Wednesday morning free activity that you can join in via Zoom. And there was a gal who wanted to make a 5-story building. But the thing about building a 5-story building is that it's all well and good to have it, but if you can't play with it, limited. So what I did was I was showing her some techniques on building playable 5-story buildings. So the key to this is that you have a plate with, it doesn't have to be a whole brick, it could be a plate that just allows it to set on top of other plates, right? If you had studs showing here, then they would attach, right? But because you have plates, you can just set it on. And so then you can lift it off and play with it there. And here is another one, 2nd story. So I only made a 3-story playable, but that's just to issue the technique. So if I wanted to make a 5-story building, which I most certainly could try to do with that, maybe I'll do that. Make a 5-story model of different techniques, right? So the first one, or what it looks like, a 5-story demonstration model of building with certain kinds of bricks. How about that? So this will be the 1st story, that'll be the 2nd story, and on the top we'll have some other things, but like those, which I'm not showing you yet, but okay. Our learning house now has 2 stories, and I'm getting ready to do the 3rd one. Right, so that's what it looks like on the bottom. And if I had enough tiles, I would have tiled it all around. I have plenty of tiles, I just have to find them. And here on the bottom, because this is a 2 wide, I had to move it in a little bit. So now we are seeing, we're going to work on our 3rd layer. And on this 3rd layer, I'm going to make it so that we can access the inside with a door. So not just with another layer that removes. We will be able to do that, but we'll put a door on the back as well. Okay, we're going to use hinges for that. To do the opening back opening, I'm going to use these hinges. So basically I will not a whole wall of them, but we'll be putting hinges here so that the door can open this way. I could put on both sides so it could open on the left and right, but let's see how I want to do it. It depends on how heavy the door will be. Okay, so I put a wall of plates, left something for the doorway here, and then an entryway of tiles. Okay, great. We're moving beyond the basic 2x2 and 2x and 1x bricks. I'm introducing a corner brick, which will help to keep the walls strong. So I'll put that in every so often on the sides that are not going to open. Here we're placing our first corner hinge. This is the 3rd story, and it has a hinge door, so you can not only take it off, but you can open the door. So we'll put that on, and it uses some standard windows and things like that that the Lego company makes, Lego group makes. Just have to wiggle that on. Okay, great. So what I'm doing for the 4th story is I extended it out a bit because this is the mini-modular story, and basically these 2 mini-modular houses can be removed so that they can be played with. So what I'm going to have to figure out is how to build it up around it so we can put the 5th story. And I have some ideas. I want to make it still able to be seen, but it'll take a little bit of searching for parts. So now we have 4 stories with different techniques demonstrated. I think I'm going to make another one later, or maybe even a smaller one, a mini modular one. That'd be cute. Okay. Well, I've spent most of the evening trying to get this going. Here we are working on the 4th level, starting to get a little bit more intricate. And I wanted to share a little bit about this style of building, which is called mini-modular. Okay, so the way this works is usually you have, they're connectable, right? So there's a basic piece, the 1x2 Technics brick, and you use the pegs to enable them to connect. This one, I couldn't find 1x2, so I used 1x2 with 1 hole. Right, 1x2 Technic brick with 2 holes, 1x2 Technic brick with 1 hole. They don't fit quite the same, but it was good enough for me at the time. And voila, you have the beginning of a village, because no city gets built all at once. Well, they do now because we have large investors and so on. But in the old days, you'd start with a piece of land and somebody would pioneer over and be granted the land, and he or she would build a house. Of course, this is like city dwellings because they're so close to each other. A house on a piece of land that a pioneer had secured would probably stand all by itself with horses and whatnot next to it. And eventually you would find a town emerging so that it could serve all of those different landowners. That's the idea anyway. Okay, so we've learned 4 different techniques, and we're going to be continuing, I hope, but this is a very time-intensive activity because I have to search for the bricks as I need them. But one day I'll have all of the bricks in this room, and then I'll still have to search for them. But there it is.